Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to this tutorial series. So today we're going to continue with setting up our parser. So we're going to start off here. I'm going to go to our parser.h. So in short, what your parser is going to represent is it's going to represent the thing that controls how every single token in your programming language should interact with each other. So I'm going to go down to, where is it? All right, so here we are. Here's the file that I've been using to test my compiler, so we're going to kind of use that as well since it's already in my command line options. So before we get into actually how to parse a class, how to parse a variable, how to parse enums and function declarations, we're going to start off by setting up our parser. So with every major portion in our compiler where we have to either build a parser or a code generator or what have you, we're going to always have some episodes where I kind of talk about the setup and what we need to do. So first you want to create your parser class, and immediately you want to create a constructor. Now, if you guys remember in a previous episode, I mentioned about the flow of how our code should run. So you start off with the tokenizer at the high level, then you get more granular and you pass the tokenizer into the parser. And the parser is only going to effectively take information from the tokenizer and do something with it. It's not going to request the tokenizer to do any further processing. So that's how your code should be. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to create quite a few variables down here. So I'm going to make sure this and everything. Okay, so we're going to need a couple. So we're going to start at the top. So first you're going to have a parsed Boolean and a panic Boolean. You guys know what that is, but for those of you who didn't watch my previous episode, this basically means that it parsed successfully. This effectively means that we ran into at least 1,000 errors or more, depending on whatever the user set as their error limit. This is going to be a list of lines which is pretty inefficient. What this represents is this effectively represents the lines inside of our tokenizer here. So I would recommend you guys use this from the tokenizer. I don't know why I have this here, and in fact, I'm going to change that and depend on the lines from the tokenizer instead. So I'm going to delete this and fix the errors off screen. After that, we want to store our source file. Now, the tokenizer doesn't have this information stored in it, which is totally fine. Preferably, I would say you might want to put that information in the tokenizer, like store the source file that it's tokenizing, and then you derive that information from the actual tokenizer. But yeah, it's here for right now, so you guys can do what you want with it. So then we're going to scroll down to the bottom, and it's pretty straightforward. So next we're going to need to have a list of our abstract syntax tree. Now we're not going to go over what an AST is in today's episode. We will go over that in a later episode. But just know that you're going to need a list of ASTs. So go ahead and create this data structure or this class. And it can just have nothing in it for now. And once we get to it, then we can talk about it. After that, you want to have a pointer to the current token that you're processing. So effectively what this is going to be is in our tokenizer, we're going to have a list of tokens, right? And this list is basically going to just contain some data. So you want to get the pointer to where that data is. So that way you can just plus plus it and minus minus it as you're processing all of your code. That way it's just easier to move around. You don't have to call a function, and it's faster because tokenizers are pretty quick, but when you start getting into parsers, for your parser to work, you got to realize that it's going to be recursive. So it's going to run a lot of code that's effectively going to waste a bunch of CPU processing time. So you want it to run as quickly as possible so you don't feel too much of the effects of the recursion going on. And we'll get into what that means later. After that, you want to have an AST cursor. This is going to be used for our abstract syntax tree. After that, you want to have a list of access types. So you want to have a list of tokens of access types. We'll get into that a little later. And then, of course, you want to have your own custom error management system. So you're going to create one error manager, and that's going to be used for this entire parser. And again, if you guys remember from my last episode, you want to individualize this because if you have errors in the parser specifically, you want to know that it came from this parser in this file. So that way you can respond accordingly. All right, so that's pretty much it for our variables. Now, of course, we want to default the variables to a default value. So we want to set our tokens to our tokenizer, which this is probably a bad name. I probably should have just called it tokenizer and just, yeah, but you get the point. Of course, next we want to set our AST cursor to 0. Again, we'll get into that a little bit later. After that, you want to set whether or not it parsed and panicked to false. And then you want to run your code. So you want to basically say, is the tokenizer not equal to null? And if it isn't, which means that we have something tokenized. And again, this is pretty unnecessary because if you guys remember, I can go to my main file here and I mean, I'm already checking to see if the tokenizer has errors. And the tokenizer is never going to be null in this case, but it is good to just kind of have like safety guards just in case, because you never know. It's C++, so. Um, Next, you want to check to see if the error management system is not equal to null, which again, this is another case where it's like unnecessary, but just for safety. And then after that, you want to make sure it doesn't have any errors. And if all that's true, you want to set up your access type. So init, we're going to get into the creation of this list class. This is just a custom list class that I created. I don't like C++ list, so I created my own. Um, it's pretty straightforward. So I feel like if you guys are watching this series, you're pretty advanced enough to kind of understand what this is, how it works. It's just a generic class. You pass in the type of data that you want to store, and it literally just has a data array and a len array. So if you guys want to copy that code, you can copy it right here. So it's not in the front end, it's just literally in the grammar folder, and it's called list.h. So that's what that is. If you guys want to observe it, look at it. But yeah, so after that, you want to set up your, or you want to initialize your abstract syntax tree, and you want to parse. So that's it for today's episode, guys. Hopefully that was easy. Parsers aren't that difficult to set up. It's only difficult when you actually try to get into actually doing the parsing itself. But next episode, we're going to be talking about how to actually parse. So I'm going to show you guys how to parse your first item. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to parse this right here. So that's going to be pretty fun. And as I've said before, this language is really complicated and I've got a ton to go over. So I'm thinking that maybe I should stick to a pretty comprehensive schedule. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been mostly putting videos out on Sunday and then Monday and then sometimes Wednesday. I think with everything we have to go over, I'm going to try to do it on a Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday schedule. So Sundays are going to be videos that it may or may not be a video on Sunday. It's probably just going to be impromptu videos where I answer questions or do updates on the actual language. And then the other days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, are going to be videos where I actually teach you guys how to code it. So hopefully that will help speed up the process and showing you guys how this language actually works under the hood, and we can kind of get through a lot of content. So I think that's probably the best approach at this point. So definitely look out for a video coming this Friday. And as usual, I'm going to try to post all of my videos around no later than 8 a.m. Central Time in the morning. And Sunday videos are typically around 11 a.m. Central Time. So that's it for today, guys. As usual, if you guys would love to support the channel, definitely check out my GitHub page, github.com/andrewdevcd/sharp, and that's going to contain the actual programming language that I update. And if you guys want to be more up to date with the language, you can definitely check out the remastered or the master branch. Master is mainly for releases. Remastered is the development branch that I'm pretty active on. I update it on almost a daily basis. So definitely check out that. Also, please watch Star and Fort repository as well. That definitely helps out the channel a ton. That gives the language a lot more visibility and lets developers know that the language exists. Also, if you'd like to know what other things I'm planning to work on or add to the language, definitely check out the docs folder. You can check out the roadmap file, which basically lays out everything that I'm either working on that doesn't have a checkbox or stuff that I've already finished with a checkbox, Or you can even look at past releases in the change list folder or the change list file, and you can see a detailed description of all the different things that I've done into the language thus far. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe if you guys like what you saw and you want to see more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.